Marnie from the North Branch of the Clinton-Macomb Public Library. Thanks for joining me today. I want to walk you through the instructions to make this swinging puppet. Your kit includes the following items. You should have a colored envelope with cutout pieces in it. That's in case you want to use the cutout pieces. If you'd like to practice cutting, you also have a red, yellow, and blue sheet with the body, the arms, and the legs for the swinging puppet. Then you should have 2 paint stirrers and a wooden spool. You also have 2 different kinds of string. The black one we'll use to put together the puppet, and the jute string we will use to put together the armature for the puppet. You also have beads that will be used. There should be 8 of them, and a couple for mistakes in case one rolls underneath the refrigerator. You also have a thumbtack which we'll be using to put holes in the wood, and a nail that you can use in case you need to make it bigger. One of the things I love about this project is that it teaches you ways to do things with, if you don't have tape, if you don't have glue, if you don't have tools like a drill, things that you can use around the house to help you get a project made. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put together the puppet. And the first step of that, if you are not using the pieces that are already cut, is to cut out your puppet. I'm going to share with you a little tip that nobody told me for a long, long time. I think I might have even been an adult before somebody told me this. If you want to cut something, the best thing to do is to keep your scissors still and to move your paper so that you can go around the shapes that you're cutting. So let's get started with that. I'm going to do the body now. Gotten my clown parts cut out. There's the body, the legs, and the arms. Now the first step in putting these together is to take the thumbtack, and you'll see that there are dots drawn on each of these templates. We're going to use the thumbtack to put a hole where the dots are. I'll just show you on the body here. You can just pick it up, make sure you don't get your fingers, just push it right through. And then once you have it through, if you give the thumbtack a little spin, that's going to make your hole bigger. I'll do this second one on the body and give it a little spin to make the hole bigger. And sometimes it's helpful to go again from the back side as well, just to make sure the edges aren't getting in the way. So there's those holes. Now for these items, it's actually fine to line them up, and if you can get the thumbtack through 2 pieces, you can go ahead and push it through both at the same time. And again, just spin your thumbtack around. We'll go through the back side again. Just give it a little spin. And then we'll do the same with the arms here. It's okay to do them one at a time too, if you'd rather do that. We've got our holes punched now. Now we're going to put the pieces together. You need the black string for this, and I am going to recommend tying a knot in one end of it. And to do that, you can kind of lick your fingers and twist the thread around your finger and then slip it off. You see how I slipped my index finger out? And then I'm going to use my middle finger to grab onto that knot that I made and pull it down to the end of the string. See that? That's going to give me a nice secure knot. And then the other end, now is the time we're going to use our beads. So you may also want to use the nail now to make the hole a little bit bigger on your legs so that you can get the thread through. You kind of have to play with this a little bit. You see my dot didn't go, my nail didn't go right through where the dot was, but that's okay, it's close enough. Now we're going to take a leg and thread it onto the string. Use the nail to make it bigger. Pull it through. And then we need to put on one of our beads. You can just thread your string onto the bead. If the ends of, you should have enough here that you can clip your string. Oh, see my bead there? The hole wasn't made all the way at the factory. So I'm just going to take my nail and go in that hole and clean it out a little bit so that my string will go all the way through. There it is. Oh, and you'll see my string was starting to bunch up, which tells me that my thread wasn't even, so I'm going to take my scissors and clip that off so that I have all the ends of the thread together. And thread that through one more time. All right, there's that one done. Now we need to thread it through the clown's body. I'll go ahead and use my nail to make that hole a little bigger. Again, if you twist this nail around, that'll help make that hole a little bit bigger so that you can get your thread through. You don't want the thread to be really tight. It needs to have some wiggle room so that the arms and legs can move around on the clown's body. I'm going to trim my thread again. One of the things you want to make sure is that the toes are pointing the same direction as the nose, otherwise your clown's feet will be on backwards. See, that's no good. That's backwards. So I'm going to take it out and do it again. Okay, and once you've got the body on, we're going to go ahead and put another bead on. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside for a minute and we'll go ahead and do the same thing with the arms. So remember to tie that knot. You put one end between your fingers all the way, pinch it tight, and then wrap it around. And use your index finger and your thumb. Slide your index finger out, and with your middle finger, grab that knot you made with the twist and pull it all the way down to the end. And there's that knot. Now you'll see that this knot is smaller than the one that I made for the legs, which is okay. You can either tie it again, like this, to make a bigger knot, or you can just leave it be. That's why, though, we need to be careful about not making the holes too big, because then we have to make a giant knot that has to go through them. Okay, and I'm gonna put one of my arms on. Now I'm going to slip it through the body. You don't have to be as careful with the arms to get them pointed the right direction. Okay, and I waited to tie second knots in my strings so that I can make sure everything is facing. The arms are in the right place. So now it's time to tie the knots to keep these things together. Probably the easiest way to tie the knot, you'll see that your thread is made up of several smaller strands. And if you just divide those strands, take 3 in each hand, you can pull them open. All the way down. It's already knotted itself a little bit. And then you take your strands and cross them over. That's what you would do if you were tying a shoe. Now if you do that one more time before you pull it, when you pull it down, those are going to gather together to make a knot. Let me show you again with this one. So I'm going to divide my thread into pieces. It's going to want to spin. That's okay, because these are all twisted together. But if you just keep pulling it until you get it down there, so I've got my 2 ends there. I'm going to cross them over and put one end through and pull it out, just like I was tying my shoe. And then I'm going to do that a second time before I pull the string. I'm going to pull it carefully so that I can kind of watch and help guide that knot into place as it gets closer to the arm. Great. So both of those now should be knotted, and you can give just a little tug on them and make sure your knot's not going to pull through. If you feel like it might pull through the hole you made, go ahead and do it again. That'll make your knot a little bigger so that it's less likely to pull through the hole you made. And then I can go ahead and trim those strings. If you want to save one of your black strings as an extra, that's probably a good idea. All right. So there's our clown. He's mostly set for now. I'm going to set him aside while we work on the next part of the project, which is going to be making the armature that will hold the clown. So you need the 2 paint sticks and the spool. And you'll see the paint sticks, they're ruler sticks. They actually have markings on them. So what we want to do is take if you want to mark this with a pencil, you can. I'm just going to eyeball mine. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch down. You'll see here's the end, and there's the tall marking there. That's the 1/2 inch mark. And I'm just going to put a hole, a guide hole, right there. And then I'm going to go to the next 1/2 inch down, which will be by the number 1, and I'm going to put another mark with my thumbtack right there. See that? So I went a 1/2 inch in to make my first hole, about in the center of the stick, and then another 1/2 inch down to the 1 inch mark to put my other hole in. And again, you can take your thumbtack and twist it around, and it'll make that hole bigger. I'm going to go through the back side. And I'm going to mark the other one now. 1/2 inch down, put my first hole. Little hands might need some help with this part to get the thumbtack through, but you should be able to push it through. And I'm going to go to the 1 inch mark and push it through again. Make sure your finger is well out of the way so you don't push the thumbtack through your finger too. Okay, so that end is finished. Now we need to move down to the other end. Your clown is going to hang here at the top, and the spool, which is acting as a fulcrum for our lever toy, is going to be down toward the bottom. Now, if you're the kind of maker who likes to measure things, you need to put this about 1/3 of a way up the stick from the bottom. So if these are 12-inch sticks, we know that 1/3 of the way up is going to be about 4 inches, which is going to be right about there. I'm just going to eyeball mine. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to set my spool on there, and I'm going to make sure that the bottom of my spool is above. You see how there's a little indent in the paint stick there? I'm going to make sure the bottom of my spool sits above that indent, and then I'm going to go up about 1/2 inch and make a hole there. So when we made the holes for the clown, you see that they lined up parallel with the paint stick. They're going the same direction as the paint stick. This time for the spool, we're going to make them perpendicular on the paint stick. So I've got this one here. I'm going to move just about 1/2 inch over, 1/2 inch up, and make my other hole there. Spin it around. So if you take a look at the two ends, you see how the holes are different. These run parallel with the stick. These are perpendicular to the direction of the stick. And then what I'm going to do is, so that I have my holes for the fulcrum in the same spot, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay one stick on top of the other and use my nail to put guide marks in the one beneath. There. See my guide marks there? They don't have to be real deep. They're just to show me generally where to put it. I had to adjust the placement of my hole just a little bit to get it through the stick. I'm going to go ahead and take the nail and push those through to make that hole a little bit bigger, because the string we're going to use for this part is a different kind of string. It's called jute. It's a really cool string. It's kind of firm, it feels kind of like paper, and it's quite strong, but it's a little thicker than the black string was. So we want to make sure we have good holes for it to go through. I'm going to string it through one of them. I'm going to string it through the spool. Okay, and then through, I used the bottom hole here, so I'm going to do the bottom hole on this one. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing and go back the other way. String it through that top hole. I want to give my rope enough slack on this side to be able to go through the spool. Okay, there it is coming out the other side. So you can see how those pieces are attached together. I am going to run this through the last hole. Now, this is another place where big hands might be helpful. You want to get this spool as tight as you can. So I'm going to pull the two loose ends so that they're tight against that side and push that down. And then I'm going to push this side against it. Now, again, you want to tie your knot, but don't tie it real tight because you may need to adjust things at this point. So this time I'm just going to tie a bow. And I'm going to try to get both of those pieces as tight as I can onto the spool. So that's basically what your armature looks like. I'm going to tie a bow to keep that in place. Okay, that part's done. Now we need to attach the clown to the armature. So you've already worked with the jute a little bit. You see how it's important to have good holes for it to go through. So I'm going to take the nail and make those holes a little bit bigger. Okay, now one of the important pieces of putting the clown together with the armature is that we want to line the clown up so he looks like he's upside down. Now we're going to use our other piece of jute and 4 beads this time. We're going to run the jute through here. Okay, and then I'm going to thread 2 beads on. And go through the other arm. And through the other top hole. Okay. There we go. Alright. Okay, and through the second hole. So all of our beads, our clown, our sticks are all strung together, and you want to leave a certain amount of space between the clown's arms and the armature. You can see I've left my string free there so that I can make some adjustments if necessary. I'm going to pull this one this way a little bit. I'm going to make this string a little longer on this side, and then I'm going to test it out. You'll see we had it laying down like this. When we pick it up, those strings at the top should cross, and that's going to help your puppet move around. So you might want to make your strings a little bit longer. Pick Pick it up again, see if you like the way, oh, that was a good swing right there. I'm going to tie a little knot in it so it stays put right there. And I'm going to go back to this one. Seems like that one's in a pretty good spot, so I'm going to go ahead and tie a second knot in there. Try to get it as tight as I can before I go ahead and put that second knot in. And give it a good pull. So that's on there pretty tightly. I think I can go ahead and trim those. And then I'm going to come back up here to the top and put another knot there. I'm going to use my fingers to hold the strings out because I don't want to pull this armature piece in closer with the force of the thread. So I'm just going to hold on to those and pull it close. Again, two hands. A helper is good for small hands on this part. Got it tight down there. I'm just going to give it a good yank. Happy with the placement of that knot now. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that string. Okay, so our clown is done. And we talked about how this is fun with the mighty lever, right? A simple machine known as the mighty lever. What is a lever after all? Well, it's a really old tool that humans have been using for a really long time. And very simply, it's a bar of some kind. It can be a piece of wood, it can be a steel rod, it can be any strong, long piece that pivots against a fulcrum. See how it's moving on the fulcrum? And if you have a load like this, something heavy that you could never lift by yourself, you can use a lever to help increase the force of your effort. So this is my heavy load. I'm going to push down on it. And you see how my pushing down causes the load to go upward. The effort I'm making is pushing that load upward. And you'll see if I move where the fulcrum is on the bar, it changes the amount of effort I have to put into the bar to move the load. I'm not pushing very much at all now. So if you think about our puppet, How is this an example of a lever? The spool here is acting as the fulcrum. And once you have it done, you'll see it takes hardly any effort at all, pushing on this end to get this puppet to spin around. If you want to check out more about levers, come look at our catalog. You can search for simple machines, you can search for levers. This piece right here you can find in our STEM kit on simple machines that you can check out from the main library. Thanks for joining me today.